Other Dan?
I have 6.
Welcome, everyone, to the Long Lake Township Planning Commission of Tuesday, June 30th regular meeting. Shall we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Heidi?
Springsteen,
Here.
Wyan,
Here.
Vershave,
Here.
Bott,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
Paulson,
Here.
Allen.
Here. Thank you. First thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Yeah, real quick before you do that, I just wanted to clarify something. On item number 8A, postponed business, typically we pull over the whole description from the meeting before, but just as a reminder, and if you want to modify it, you are privy to, but the Planning Commission held the public hearing on May 26th, so you're really on item number 8A6. So if you wanted to get rid of the first 5, you could, because those public comments won't be open tonight. Public, if somebody would like to speak on that topic, it would be done during item number 5.
Is there anything, anybody have anything else?
Move to approve the agenda
As
as noted.
noted? Is that what you're saying? With the deletion of
Starting
8A 1 through 5? Okay. Is there support?
I'll support.
That was motion by Vershave, support by Wagner. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything that we're doing tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move past that. So our public comment, I just want to remind everybody then it is anything that's on the agenda. If there aren't specific places to speak to things on the agenda, so I want to make sure you have a chance to do that, and of course anything that's not on the agenda. So is there anything that's from public comment?
I have handouts, but I didn't get it to Cody yet. I was not lazy. Suffice to say, I was driving my husband back from the hospital.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Chris Crew, 3016 Collier Road. I'm talking about the application for the expansion of the storage unit facility to include open-air parking. I have handed you guys some pictures that were taken on May 28th of the current owner's facility on Hammond Road. On there, we had talked about, and there was discussion about the open-air parking and how it would be lined out and laid out and orderly. On some of those photos from the 28th of May, you can see that there are no lines and there's no order. There's also some concerns that were raised by Tina, I believe, about things being stored that are not boats and trailers. There's photos there of ladders and scaffolding and other things there that show that it's not just trailers. There's also dumpsters showing on the property and there's a semi-trailer that was parked there. Photos were also taken on the 26th of June, I believe it was. The landscaping maintenance conversation that we had about making sure that the arborvitaes would stay alive. There's photos of landscaping maintenance that the deer have eaten them. And even if it's not a requirement from the current township that's in, the fact that the company's a landscaping and does excavation and landscaping, one would think that would be something that you'd want to maintain so that it does showcase your abilities to have good landscaping. The pocket forest, if you put made some changes and put forest requirements and do that kind of stuff, it may actually attract more wildlife in the area, which could also end up becoming more of a hazard on North Long Lake Road and on West Long Lake Road. There's been plenty of deer that are carcasses on North Long Lake Road, as we've seen. One of the other things that I noticed in the photos was there's items on that property that are actually for sale, which if that happens, now you're going to have a lot that's going to have other people's property being sold, which smells of kind of a Maxon kind of thing. It could have one piece or multiple pieces. There was a comment made that it was used before for holding RVs. Just because it was done in the past doesn't mean that's what the current zoning ordinance is. Matter of fact, on page 82 of the 80, it says outdoor storage should be minimized and where permitted buffering measures should be implemented. That's on the commercial and industrial section of the master plan that you guys approved in 2024. It also said landscaping should be used to mitigate and isolate large parking areas and augment the natural areas of the township. Remember, what you're approving now is going to stick with that property until it is transformed into a different use. And as has been shown in the past and is fondly referred to as past behavior predicts future. So what you're seeing now is probably going to carry through into our township. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Adam Orth, owner of the Hammond Road Storage Vault and also president of the Long Lake Storage Vault. I don't see what you guys are seeing, so shouldn't be anything for sale there, so I don't know why there would be any pictures or anything's for sale. As far as the emerald green arborvitaes that are at Hammond Road, some of them on the east side did get eaten this last winter, but they haven't died. So I actually did some research and found that there's a spot up in Northport, a tree farm up there that has junipers that are very similar to the emerald green arborvitaes. They grow about 15 to 20 feet tall, about 5 to 6 foot base on them, grow about a foot a year, and deer do not like those. So that was our thought, is to put those in versus the emerald green arborvitae, so it would be deer tolerant. As far as the outdoor storage at Hammond Road, that is all stuff that's on the back side of Hammond Road behind the buildings. And it's a different township, they have different requirements. We do have semi-trucks that come in and they will bring their stuff, and as they're moving it, they may be there for 12 hours for the day to unload it. So I guess if somebody showed up and was wanting to take some pictures and try to be malicious and try to do some things that doesn't generally go on, I guess you just happen to show up at the right time and the right day, I guess. So other than that, I mean, if you look at the landscaping there, I mean, we got a ton of pictures. They're really nice landscaping and stuff. If you go on the side of the buildings, tiered walls, colored walls. I mean, we didn't do cheap stuff. It's got lights in there. If you look at the landscaping around the whole building at Hammond Road, it looks really nice. So I'm not sure. A couple of the arborvitaes, I guess, that did get eaten, but that was from the harsh winter that we had. So as far as animals and stuff that would be coming through there because of the more trees, I thought that's what everybody was talking about, was everybody's concerned about trees getting cut down and animals and the birds and everything else. So I guess this would only inhibit more of nature to be around that area. We did provide what we have in our contract for what we have over at Hammond Road for the outdoor storage. Cody has it. It's pretty much lays out everything, basic stuff. If your car doesn't drive, doesn't go down the road, isn't insured, isn't registered by the state of Michigan, it can't be parked there, can't work on it, can't leak oil, any of that type of stuff. It's only roadworthy vehicles. So yeah, I don't know. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Jim Drake, I live in Traverse City, 1211 Cerro Road. I'm the manager over at Hammond Road Storage as well as Long Lake Storage. The reason that there is a semi-trailer over there is that the gentleman brought that in on Friday afternoon. It was there for Saturday and Sunday as he was unloading. Monday it was supposed to be out of there, and they were supposed to come and pick it up. So I put a call into them. They're supposed to be picking that up today or tomorrow morning. So it's just a temporary thing. Most of those situations on semi-tractor trailers, they're only there for a 3 to 5 day period. People are usually given about 48 hours to empty those out so that they can be back in their inventory. As far as the for sale vehicles back there, again, what Adam said, they're on the very back of the furthest building in back. There are 4 buildings, and that's why we put the parking in back there, because you cannot see it from the road. And so it was just a truck and a boat, pontoon boat, and it's just, they've got for sale signs on them, and that's about it. Most of those people have restrictions in their where they live, that they can't do that in where they live as far as their houses, and we just did it as a favor for them. But it's very rare that comes up, but of course it has to come up now. We've battled with the guy with the ladders. Been trying to put those back onto his parking space, and they're not really supposed to be there, but he brought them in, and we're trying to work with him to get those out of there. So those are kind of some of the complaints I had with that, as far as with the ladders themselves. So it's not like it's disorganized or messy or anything like that. It's just a situation, especially on that very north side of the building. You cannot see it along Hammond Road at all when you're driving. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, everybody. Casey Kaw, 2101 Gina Marie Lane. Just real quick, just wanted to throw out there is a service side to the community to this too. I'm going to say we got somewhere in the 20 to 30 calls this spring of people that have campers or trailers. They drop their boat in, they have nowhere to store it. As more homeowners associations, more subdivisions are going in this community, and they're putting pretty strict rules on what can be stored on people's property. So we have a lot of community members that don't have anywhere to keep their stuff. This is something that we used to be able to help with. We're not in the position to do that anymore, and we get these calls, and then we have nowhere to direct them that's anywhere in the area. So just keep in mind that this is a service that can be provided to the community, and you have the opportunity to help your neighbors by approving this.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So my name's Matt Hawkins. I'm owner of, or one of the owners of Long Lake Storage Vault. I'm not an owner of Hammond Road Storage. I appreciate the fact that she did her research and went out there and looked, but this property is different than that property. There are different township rules here. The idea was to have lanes divided using either rope, painting, stripes, or whatnot, and have an organized storage out there, because pure chaos isn't going to work for traffic flow if people are pulling boats in and out. Also, we are trying to promote having a tree line across there, and to do that financially viable, we'd like to have storage to be able to pay for that, to be able to put that in as well. There was a significant investment to develop this property out of the gate, because it was 14 acres and it was a 28-foot elevation difference. So out of the gate, we had to move a lot of dirt to even get a road in there and actually make the site feasible to use. And we'd appreciate your consideration in this. And we do understand that this is a community, it's a recreational community, it's a bedroom community, but that property is also, right now, zoned as general business, and we do understand that there is an overlay on this, but we request that that be considered as well. And it's ancillary to the existing use as well, and it would be a benefit to many people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. then we will close public comment for now. Is there any correspondence? No. Okay, so none. Minutes. Has everybody reviewed the minutes, and are there any questions or changes that need to be made? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve.
I motion we approve the minutes.
Motion by Springsteen,
I'll support.
support by Vershave. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. So we'll move on to our postponed business, CLU 052603 and SPR 052604, to amend a previously approved mini warehousing and self-storage conditional land use permit to include operating open-air business and storage. So we did complete 1 through 5 last month, and so we're going to just move pretty quickly, except I think we want Cody to make a few comments. We had some questions when we ended last time, a couple of legally type questions. Do you have the answers for those, Cody?
I do. So specifically, I was asked 2 questions when it came to legality. One is, are we allowed to differentiate between types of outdoor storage and what products there are? The example that I was given specifically was the difference between boats and RVs and a dock section. After speaking with legal counsel, the answer is twofold, as all good legal decisions are. We are allowed to regulate objects outside, but the legal team does not feel there's a substantial enough difference between a boat and RV and a dock section to constitute distinguishing between the two. The example he gave me is something that would have to be egregious in order to be conditioned upon, as if somebody wanted to open something like a tannery where there'd be pelts or hides outside. That he felt would be something egregious to be stored outside, and that we would have the right to distinguish against. But something as a RV or boat or dock section does not have enough distinction to hold up legally if it's challenged. That was his recommendation. The other comment that you asked, the applicant just provided me with tonight the section of their contract, which obviously they have the right to change at any point, of their storage of motor vehicles. And as they stated previously, I can make a copy and give this to everybody as well. But it talks about all vehicles are in good working order, able to be driven to the facility. So, and they must be registered and carry insurance. So that is a part of their contract that was provided to me here a few minutes ago. So those are the 2 main questions that I had to answer for you.
Thanks. Bob, you were the one who wanted to see the contract. Do you have other questions about that? Do you
No,
need a copy now, or? Okay.
There were questions, so the reason for tabling it was to.
The legal opinion.
Yeah, so.
So you're okay with not having a copy? Is there anybody else who wants a copy, like right now? Okay. Okay. So, 2 of you were not here. And so, anyway, who wants to start? Dennis and Max? Oh, go ahead.
I'm always willing, I just was waiting. I think this is not an easy thing, and I think there are, as we've talked about, overlays and zoning and just personal preference and things, and you look back at what has happened the last couple of times, 2022 and 23, which Cody researched that and brought for us. It was, the open air was turned down both times. The description of why it was turned down was pretty broad. It said it was inconsistent with the
Master plan.
well, it didn't say specific things in the master plan, but it said it was inconsistent with the master plan. So in looking through all of that, there are things that I found that I think could be inconsistent with the master plan, and it's mostly appearance. The height, the types of things that are there, the zoning, it's all of those things are things that I think are, it meets the criteria, but when it gets to the kind of the end of is it consistent with the master plan? The place that I find that it could be is the appearance and consistency with the neighborhood. And I know someone talked about consistent with what Wheelex has done, and it is, but consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. It's just that appearance, and I think the arbs are a good point. They're not really very attractive. And I know it was raised also that the possibility of a pocket forest could bring animals, which I think of as a positive, birds and things. And so I think that there would be ways to make this much more attractive and meet the criteria and be something that would still give that community need and community support. Things like moving the open air storage to the back, or things like having a buffer zone that was more a natural buffer zone of trees and shrubs that are native to the area that over time wouldn't need to be maintained because you put the right things in there, you're going to have deer resistance. And so I think there's a way to make this work. I just think the way it looks now is what I think of when I read the master plan and say that is it consistent with where we want to go, and it doesn't look like it is. I think it's a very well-done storage unit. I think the buildings themselves are attractive. I think the way it's laid out is attractive. But that buffer zone is what the master plan calls for multiple times. Multiple times the master plan indicates a natural buffer zone. And I think that's the place where this, if it falls down, which is a remediable thing in my mind. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it.
There I am. One of the things I wanted to know, I went in on the site, where this is proposed will eventually be buildings, if I understand correctly. Or is that going to be erased? I don't know if I wasn't here at the last meeting.
It was that, yes, someday, but they're not going to, like, they can't say when.
Yeah, okay. And originally there was, with COVID and that, how far to extend it out and that, which were real considerations. The one thing I was wondering about, I agree with Pete, is would it be able to be relocated so it's not up front there?
Max, you didn't get to talk last time.
If they built the buildings, you're talking?
Not if.
Yeah, when?
Now.
No, to start now with that. In other words, eventually they're going to put buildings either in the back or in the front and in between. This would be the last thing to go, I guess, because it would be generating income, which makes sense. But is there a place that's feasible on the property to relocate it so that income is coming in? And not have it
So
up
are you
front?
saying, like, build the buildings toward the front first and put the storage in the back?
Yeah.
Instead of the way it is right now.
If that's feasible, yeah.
I heard different, Dennis, or were you saying you don't have to build the buildings first, but put the storage in the back first?
Correct.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, not to interrupt the flow of when they're building buildings, but to help them get up and running with that, so that income is coming in. It makes sense to have it to generate income to build that out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with some of what Pete said as well. I do agree that boat trailers probably are, and, storage is probably an issue in that area, and there are a lot of boats coming off of Long Lake at the ramp and stuff there. I'm just not sure that's the right place for it. Possibly if you put it in the back, the screening part is difficult. I mean, a fence is ugly. It's hard to plant enough trees unless you have a 20 or 30-foot buffer to plant them at a zigzag pattern or something so they overlap to really screen. You can't get them close enough together to really do that.
Can I reply to that? Actually, the pocket forest is out there in a lot of places, and they are compactly planting plants, and they do grow relatively quickly because they're competing for sunlight, and you get a pretty good screen pretty quickly. I mean, quickly is relative, right? It's still
Right.
a few years.
Right.
So,
Dan, do you have anything you want to say at this point?
My mic is on.
Yep.
I'm pretty much in agreement. I think that the idea of a little pocket forest is good because it provides a textural look that's attractive. And I think, we want to keep this place looking attractive. I think that this is a function that's needed in the township, but I'd certainly like to see it done in a way that's attractive.
Dan Wagner, do you want to say anything?
I really don't have anything to say that I didn't say before. I think the grade change there is pretty significant, that it's much higher. I think what's being proposed is quite responsible. There clearly is a need for this type of a use. I wasn't here for the historical perspective. I haven't read through the record. I don't really know what the concerns were. Personally, looking at the side of a building or the side of a boat, it's 6 one, half dozen of another to me. So if they're willing to put a buffer up, I don't see what the big deal is, quite frankly.
Thanks. So, the way I feel, it kind of ended last time with, I would say pretty much most of the people were kind of like, what's a big deal? And I felt like it was a big deal. But I've had some time to think, and what I actually came up with is, it's like Pete Springsteen and I had a mind meld, actually, except I didn't know the word pocket forest. But I kept going. So I actually, before Chris mentioned it, I had found, this is actually in our notes for the other project tonight, and it's page 80 of the master plan, and it does say, commercial and industrial outdoor storage should be minimized where permitted, buffering measures should be implemented, sides and front facades of the buildings, okay, that's fine. And then it says, what you want to do is to mitigate the effects of large parking areas, or in this case, I'll say storage areas, is to augment the natural impression found in Long Lake Township. So when I look at the plan, even though I appreciate I do agree that it's a use. I wish we could say it can't be certain things, just so it doesn't get messy and you don't run into some of the problems they're having in East Bay, because the people are people, right? They're going to take advantage of everything they can. But, and I don't mean them, I mean the people renting. But I can't do that, so that's fine. So how do I make it, there aren't natural features there. When we went through everything and Cody's thing, there were not natural features when they started building except some grass, right? But it's our job, I think, to help create the things that bring it back to what it could be. And so I was thinking exactly what you were saying. I'm not against having it there. I actually do think it serves a local need. I just don't want a big row of trees if we're going to do it. I want something that looks good. I actually today came from, well, I did it a few times, but came from Lake Ann, and there's a couple of big trees that are, Sonny, those two big trees that were on the corner of your yard, are those on that property or on this property? Two great big pines. They're on the old other one. Okay, so that was one thing, that if those were gone, it would not be a very pretty sight coming from Lake Ann, so maybe putting some things on that site that could help in case that landowner decides to take those two trees down. But other than that, it's really just like making it look nice, making it look, I guess, what a pocket forest is. I don't know, you'd have to tell me more about that, but that wording sounds just right.
I can read
and
about
natural
it. If you'd
stuff.
like me to read to it, I can.
You're talking about native species and stuff.
So
right?
if you look at a pocket forest for northern Michigan, it needs to be at least 100 square feet in order to be effective. And you have canopy trees, subtrees, and shrubs and ground cover. And canopy trees for us are sugar maples, northern red oaks, eastern white pines, basswood. Subtrees are serviceberry, flowering dagwood, chokecherry, things like that. And a lot of those are deer resistant. And then shrubs and ground cover, witch hazel, high bush cranberry, things. And they do need to be nurtured for a couple of years, but after that, you really don't want to nurture them because you want that to become naturalized. And so it is a fair amount of work. You do need to excavate, depending on what you have there, a couple feet to get the, the appropriate nutrients in the soil, and then, put that down. And you're a landscaper, you know this better than I do. But it's pretty doable. And it does require weeding and mulch the first couple of years, but after that, it becomes self-sustaining. So it's pretty effective where they've used it.
So when the leaves fall off in the fall, you can see everything behind it. I thought the objective was to try to put a shield.
Pete, are you okay entering into a conversation?
Sure, yeah, if that's okay with you.
Okay. I know, but
Yeah,
point
I
of
was,
order.
I
I'm
was
just making
aiming
sure.
it at you, that's right.
But, like, the objective was to try to create a barrier so nothing can be seen. So putting in deciduous trees that are going to lose the leaves in the fall, and we're going to have site vision issues. So maybe we certainly can put some maples and oaks and stuff like that along there too. Cover it in there, but it's like every time unless you have something that's completely touching each other, like a fence, which we don't want, or a natural buffer of arborvitaes or junipers or whatever, they're always going to have their foliage on. You're always going to see through that. So I guess that was my objective, was to shield that with what's behind there. So.
I mean, that's part of where your best opportunity for this is to have it be as as deep as you can make it. So I mean, if you're 8 or 10 feet deep or versus 20 feet deep, it does make a difference. And that's why the understory and the shrub and then the deciduous trees, and that's actually why they make them more compact than it would really typically find them. It's that competition to get them to grow taller sooner. But it's like everything. There is no perfect solution.
Put them too close together, then you got root competition.
Right.
The trees start choking each other out and dying. So there's, kind of like when you walk through a big forest, the big trees are probably every 15 to 20 foot, spread out, where you're trying to pump them together, they're never really going to get that big.
So for me, it's the value that I hear over and over as, you read through the master plan is this, maintaining the rural character, the natural character, those kinds of things. So it's to me, it's kind of a combination of that. I don't mind the row of trees if that's going to screen it, but some other things that can give some depth to it and some variety. So it looks like, you're in what most of Long Lake Township looks like. And I don't know, I don't want to have to say, and in reality, without that, then I'm uncomfortable about the outdoor storage being in the front. That's what it really comes back to. And then we did talk, or I mentioned last month that I thought I should go in the back, but it didn't seem, that didn't carry a lot of weight last month, so.
I wasn't here.
I know you were.
I'm playing catch-up.
Yeah.
So what are our options going forward, Tina? I mean, if we move to approve with X requirements, I mean, we're not going to sit here and say you have to do junipers, or you have to do a pocket forest, or you have to do certain things, but...
I think this is where I would turn to Cody and say, if we wanted, I don't want them to have to sit here, we're not going to approve this until you come back and do this whole new landscaping plan, right? But how could we do it? Is there a way to do it where staff could, what would be, if that's what people wanted to do, how would that be worded?
So the Planning Commission is allowed to approve a conditional land use application with conditions, and some of those conditions can be verified and executed by staff. This is common when you guys...
Verified and executed.
Yeah, this is common when you guys say, hey, we're going to approve this, but all outside agency approvals are needed, so we make sure they have soil erosion, we make sure they have environmental, that's a common practice to do. The question staff's going to pose back to you is, if your choice is to ask them to create a new landscaping plan, what are your requirements that landscaping plan meets? Because there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that staff can point to. currently, the way that 19.39, which is the open air and business section, is worded, and item number 5 talks about the planning commission being able to establish buffering mechanism. It specifically states to mitigate the visual impact. So if staff is enforcing that, we're going to make sure that you can't see through it. So if the applicant comes back to us and says, hey, here's our row of arborvitaes that you guys are currently looking at, this is all staff has to go off of, it meets that requirement. So if you're looking for something further than that, you need to make sure to explain to staff what we're validating. Otherwise, we're only going to go off of what's listed in the book.
So I think everybody just feel free to correct me. But there's the visual impact, which is I don't want to see this stuff, right? But the part that's part of the master plan is more about combining that with this natural impression of the township.
Yep.
So I have no idea how you'd word something like, so they're two different things, right?
So you're.
But they're the same at the same.
The request I'm understanding from you is that you're looking for a buffer that meets the natural vegetation of the area?
The area? I mean, it's a farm across the street, so that might be a little.
I mean, this is the problem when it comes to
Correct.
vagueness in our zoning ordinance.
That's why I want to be fair to everybody and not.
Yeah, I agree. And our biggest thing from a staff perspective is we want to make sure it's executable. If your wishes are for X, Y, Z to happen, we want to make sure that we can execute all 3 of those elements. So that's why
We're also not, I don't think, not in the position where we want to cause them undue expense that would make this, prohibitive. So
Well,
that's not.
I mean, to be frank.
It's like plant some more trees, some deciduous trees in front of it.
I say, to be frank, if the applicant decides that it's too expensive for them, they are just going to choose not to build it, because every applicant that comes in here that runs a business is running for ROI.
Good point.
So regardless of that, just keep that in mind, I guess, as you make your recommendations and your approvals. The other thing I will say on the approval point is make sure to include a findings of fact. That could be any of the documents that are provided to you when you make your motion. So from a procedural standpoint, please make sure that's included.
I would just like to add one other comment. I'm more concerned about reflecting the natural character of Long Lake Township than I am to make it appear that there are no buildings back there. We're going to see the buildings regardless, and that's going to happen. And I would rather see a buffer with a little character and texture than just a row of pillar-like trees. One of my neighbors did a similar thing, and they planted spruce and cedar and pine and tamarack and just a variety of trees, and it's a great barrier, and it's attractive.
I agree with Dan on that. I think, and I also agree with Adam as far as if it's hardwoods, you're going to see through it when the leaves fall. I think you need to do a mixture of conifers, something that's thick, like white pine tend to stay low to the ground, and then mix some other trees and maybe some bushes in it, just so it's not all the same trees, right? And how you, short of having them put a landscape plan together, I don't know how you spell that out exactly, but a mixture of trees that's. And I think you can put enough white pine in there or other conifers in there to break it up enough that you can't, I shouldn't say can't see through it, but it breaks it up so it's not obvious.
You're driving by, you're not sitting on a bench in front of it.
Correct.
Tina, can I make a stab at it? At
Yes.
actual verbiage?
Of course you can.
So the West Activity Center calls for us to encourage roadside buffer strips and native vegetation to enhance and protect the character of Long Lake Township and maintain its rural character while improving the natural environment. That is the part that I would say then justifies.
Yes, I'd say that justifies it too.
That we have a mix of deciduous and conifer that are deer resistant and work towards including native shrubbery and ground cover.
I'm looking at you because you people are the ones who have to know if you're right or not.
My first response is going to be, and where do you want them to place this? The same geographic area that I currently have arborvitaes? I mean, we just got to be super specific, and the reason I say this is because currently there's buffer regulations between commercial properties and residentially zoned properties, but it's like 3 trees every 50 feet. Well, that's not what everybody pictures when they think buffer. So you need to be extremely specific on what you're asking, not only for my clarity and our enforcement officers' clarity, but also for the applicant to make sure that they're able to achieve what you're setting. So if you're saying they have to have natural vegetation within the same boundary as shown as the arborvitae's on the submitted site plans, that's closer. It doesn't talk about anything about density or seeing through it, and like you mentioned multiple times, if it's not evergreen and it's coniferous, you're going to see through it in the fall time, so when do we take a look at that? So just, these are words of warning, because once that permit is issued, that's what staff uses to enforce and keep folks within the permitted use. So I just want to make sure it's very spelled out, if that's the route you guys choose to go.
So there's other, I hate bringing up other neighboring townships and what they do, but it's already been brought up tonight. So I know other townships, they are very specific, like you said. They'll say, 3 deciduous trees every so many feet, 3 coniferous trees, and then there's different types of buffers and so there's, for a more robust one, they'll increase the counts, and sometimes there's shrubs included too, and so I think we're on the right track with adding in variety and other types of vegetation, but I guess we're all going to become landscape architects tonight and figure that out.
I kill every plant I touch, so I probably am not the one who should be doing this.
Well, if you look at the site plan on 2.0, they show landscaping, and it looks like there's plenty of room to do, if you put a width requirement, like 15 feet, or, depth requirement.
Yeah.
So that gives you room to scatter them back and forth and overlap type of thing. I am unclear why only 102 feet on the east property line, if there's something else already there blocking the view, or...
You can't really see it because of the Dollar General parking lot.
So if you took those vegetation buffers that are shown on C2.0 and made those
A depth.
15 feet, a depth of 15 feet with interspersed plants mixed between arborvitae, find my notes again.
So kind of like the mix you talked about. but-
Conifer, hardwood, and native shrubbery.
But not arborvitae.
Not arborvitae,
Right.
excuse me.
What do you think? I know Dan Wagner's okay. We don't have to do anything to make Dan Wagner happy.
These are great additions. They've identified the arborvitae. Sounds like they want to be a substitution to a different type of species.
Juniper, yeah.
Let's call it an evergreen tree that would remain 12 months out of the year. I guess we don't have to get too specific, but maybe something to your thought for every 5 of those shown on the site plan, 1 additional native deciduous type species be added into the buffer zone, and they be staggered and not just aligned to provide a little bit more.
I just want to say, you guys have to be taking notes on these, because somebody's going to have to make this motion, so. I think that's a good idea too, Dan.
But again, that, might be too cost prohibitive. Last time I bought a tree at, 4 seasons, I think it's something back, $175, so. Just gotta pick up all those leaves too.
Yeah, but here's why I think that the wording and stuff is important if we're even thinking about it, which I think we are, is that I don't want that to go, oh, now you have to come back next month with a landscaping plan, because they need to start making money off of this. If we're really leaning towards saying, yes, it's okay, as long as we can figure out how to buffer it, then I think that we need to figure out how to word that in fairness. If we're thinking, no, we don't want outdoor storage, that's a different story, but I haven't heard that from anyone. Correct? Okay.
Correct.
Then I think in fairness, I mean, it's going to cost them money if we hold them back a month too, Dan. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I feel like I'd like to be able to do something that makes sense. And if we could throw in those 2 trees over by the other corner, what direction is that? Because I'm terrible with directions. What if you're coming from Lake Ann? Because when those are going to come down, you know how they're going to come down at some point. You know when you're coming from Lake Ann, there's those 2 big ones that are on Wheelock's old property, house property. If those come down, then you can see everything again. But if they're still there, then you're good. So just a couple of trees on the inside of that would be nice.
I think one thing we may want to think about is, I know it's expensive to put in 20-foot tall arborvitae, but if we're talking about a variety of trees, I think we could reduce the height restriction on it, because they're going to grow quickly, and it could go in less expensively that way, but still look attractive in the long run, because we're planning not just for this year, but for the rest of our lives.
I think for me, the goal is that you don't even notice what's behind them, because what's in front looks right. Like it looks like it fits, you're driving down the road, you know. So then I think that does allow for that as well, yeah.
I agree with you, Dan. I think that this doesn't need to be a barrier on the day that it goes in. And we're asking for something that's out of the ordinary, that's going to take probably a little more work, and if it can be less expensive by going with smaller plants, that's, I think, an appropriate trade-off for us. They'll get big. So.
Yeah, the cars and boats and RVs aren't going to be taller than 12 or 14 feet, so, and you're looking up a hill,
Yeah,
so if you had 8-foot trees, you're probably going to screen them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, you're looking up a hill anyway, so. All right, so do we have everybody's pretty comfortable with someone doing a motion to the effect of what we? You're really comfortable with Pete doing it? Let's all look at Pete.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the rationale first. So the West Activities Center calls for us to encourage roadside buffer strips of native vegetation to enhance and protect the character of Long Lake Township and maintain the rural character while improving the natural environment. And in that light, we would propose to have the 132-foot and the 102-foot plots be 15 feet wide or deep, and be a mix of deciduous and conifer that are deer resistant, and would include native shrubbery and ground cover. Did I hit the ones you needed, Cody?
Is verified and executed by staff.
As verified?
As verified and executed by staff.
You may want to include the ratio that Dan talked about.
I'm not sure how we would get the right ratio, though. I would be okay with the staff verifying the ratio, but
Right now, he's making a motion, and then we'll
Okay.
have discussion.
So-
It did not include the ratio.
It did not include the ratio.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we have a second to that? Okay, so it was Springsteen, Paulson. Thank you. Okay, now we have discussion, so.
Commissioners, if I might add, if that's going to be your motion, to please amend it to include approval by all outside agencies if necessary, and also to include a findings of fact to make sure procedurally you're sound in your decision.
Agree.
Do you have that? Okay. Then, are you okay with supporting? Yep, okay. So motion and support to change that. Thank you. Thanks, Cody. Okay. Any discussion? And that includes staff if he wants to discuss.
Yeah, I have questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I understand your intent. I think everybody's gathering what your intent is. My worry is about execution, because with this not being solidified in the zoning ordinance, meaning the tree preservation efforts haven't been completed fully, that we have this verbiage, we're making this verbiage up on the fly. So the question is, when it comes to density or maintenance or spacing of trees, and the current definition, if the applicant decided to put up 10 trees in the front, 10 trees in the east, technically as staff, as long as it meets that, it's going to have met your definition of your condition, but it's not going to have the effectiveness you're looking for. Does that make sense? So I'm a little worried that your wording is not going to meet your intent when it's placed how it currently is.
Except you're talking about an overall depth for the
Right.
whole, for both of those lengths.
I
So-
understand.
Okay, so it can't just be 10 trees here and 10 trees there, because it's got to be,
I understand, but say you have 5 at 30 feet and 5 at 15, now you have your 15-foot depth. This is what I'm saying is, because this is unique in the fact that we haven't had this condition that I can remember on a property, when typically buffered conditions are either like what has been presented or lesser, frankly, that it becomes difficult for staff to make sure that your intent is being executed to its extent.
Cody, would it help if we added something like that would provide at maturity a 75% visual buffer to the area of concern?
That better clarifies your intent. I have no way of knowing when they plant an oak tree if it's going to achieve 75% visual. So yes, it helps clarity. My worry is that you're putting this on staff to validate. Totally fine, you have the right to do so. I'm worried that we're not going to have the ability to validate it because the maturity is going to be 30 years. If they decide to plant saplings, under the current definition of the condition, that would be allowed. Typically, I've seen people talk about DBH, which is diameter at breast height of a tree. So like we have regulations when it comes to that for site condos and such, and that's something that we can verify when we can go out and measure. I'm just worried that we don't have the correct verbiage yet to allow staff to adequately validate this and be fair to not only the intent of the Planning Commission, but also the applicant, and make sure that we are equitably enforcing this.
Let me jump in here. I've pulled up some examples, and in other townships, there's different, so there's 3 types of buffers of varying intensity, let's say. So the first, the lower intensity one, it would have like 2 large trees, 1 medium or small tree, and 4 shrubs per 100 lineal feet. And then the next one is 3 large trees, 3 medium or small trees, 1 evergreen, same per footage. And then the third is like 4 large trees, 3 medium or small trees, 3 evergreen. But there's no like, that's all it is. There's no like visual or additional visual.
That gives us something to validate.
So I guess my suggestion might be to modify the motion to the buffer as presented with they could substitute the juniper species that they, deer-resistant juniper species that they suggested during their comments, the applicant, I should say, during their comments. And then say, for every 100 feet, 3 deciduous and 3 evergreens. And then that gives you a quantity to verify. I don't know if that's
enough.
What's that?
I don't think that's enough. I mean, there's going to be quite a space between them if it's only
But that's in addition to their, the visual buffer of, the junipers.
I see.
So to make sure I understand, you're saying the applicant's current presented buffer with, and this application is arborvitaes, but also could be another evergreen tree. In addition to that, every 100 feet, they would need to add 3 deciduous and 3 extra evergreens in a depth of 15 feet.
Correct.
Okay. That's definitely enforceable from our standpoint. It gives us a solid number that we have to count.
But we
and-
do we need the size of the deciduous? Because you said something about condo.
Can't hear you, Tina.
Oh, you said that in the condo thing, that it's
Yeah.
got like this is how big, do we need to add that or not?
You can if you want.
But
The
you're okay
deciduous
without
trees, at least we have a number to go against at that point. The condo dock, just for reference, is 2.5 inches DBH, which is typically measured 4.5 feet off the ground. So that is currently something you could hang your hat on, or you could choose not to. But at least by giving a number to it, you've now just told me and the applicant that for their 100-foot line on the right, they need to add 6 more trees, and then for the front, they need to add 8 more trees. So that at least gives a solid number that we could go out and enforce.
I see why that meets your needs, but
Yes.
I don't think it meets the needs of what we're talking about. I mean, if we're talking about making it look like the community, make it, naturalizing it, and it's really a row of trees with a few deciduous trees in front of it. And for the applicant, they still have the expense of, there's probably 100 arbs up there. Are we talking about they're going to now do 100 juniper trees? I mean, I would rather have them, if I was choosing how they're spending the money, which I'm not, but I'd rather have them do less junipers and more of the native natural things, so when we're driving by, we see what looks like northern Michigan rather than what looks like a row of soldiers, which is what the arbs look like.
I think, in a typical forest, at the edge of the forest, it's kind of thickety, and I think that's the look that we're looking for.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a way to use that as a metric. I'm not nuts about the idea of junipers because I know they're going to be expensive. It's possible to get bare root maple saplings that are really quite inexpensive and would serve the need for the deciduous trees because they grow really fast. But, a variety of pines and, other evergreens with the shrubs that you were talking about. I think that's what we're driving for, and I don't know if describing it as edge of the forest thicket is useful to you at all. But that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think if you took the plan says 3 arborvitae on 3-foot spacing, if you change those to a mix of spruce and white pine, and then staggered them front to back, and even staggered spacing if you want, and then add Bob's statement of 4 trees per 100 foot of the other in front of those to break it up, I think that, to me, that is going to look more natural than an arborvitae.
I really like the staggering. I still think more deciduous, but I think that what you're describing, Max, really makes a lot of sense.
I've seen a lot of schools and other places that did buffers where they plant white pines on a zigzag type pattern so that they have room to grow but still overlap. It makes a pretty good screen, and then you have a few other trees mixed in there to break it up and make it look more natural. Throw some hardwoods and...
Spread that out more than 3 foot.
Yeah, even 5 foot or 6 foot on center is probably enough, right? Yeah.
It's not going to work for
Right.
I think keeping in mind this doesn't have to be a barrier when it goes in. It needs to be a barrier as time goes by.
The other thing I keep having to remind myself of, it's not like we're going to be sitting, no one is going, I guess at Clark's, but you're not going to be sitting looking across just all the time. You're driving by.
Right.
So the visual impact part is to make it look natural.
Right.
So you don't even know that stuff's back there. I have crap in my backyard. I know, it's hard to believe, but people...
I thought you had a pocket forest in your front.
And you drive by my house, and you don't know that stuff's back there.
Barb commented to me today.
So, it's more to bring the attention and to rebuild the natural character, because that's what we say over and over and over in the master plan, right? So, okay, I don't know who's going to word that either, but yes.
We already have a motion and a second.
We do. I did just motion him that you can say one, so we're not going to talk back, but you can say something.
I just wanted to ask the question, just for all of you, just
Okay.
on spacing.
And we may or may not answer. Okay.
Just for clarification for us.
Could you use a mic? Could you step up to the mic?
Sure can.
Thanks.
Usually I get told I'm too loud at home. Sorry. So I just have one question on that. If we're looking at doing white pine and stuff, obviously we're not going to plant them every 3 feet because they do get a lot thicker and wider. Even at 6 feet, they're going to start encroaching on each other. So that was a question I'd have on that. Just if we're getting limited to that, now all of a sudden we're having to trim the trees and keep them all tight, compact, and it's going to look more like a tree farm as we're landscaping them to try to keep them from killing each other off. So that was all.
You know, I wouldn't have a problem with it growing the way a natural forest grows. You're going to have some trees that are going to get crowded out and they're going to die, but the other trees are going to fill that in. So I mean, that's just how a forest grows.
Agree.
So we just make a motion that we want a natural forest to grow. Just plant a natural forest.
So what do we have to do with the motion?
Well, you have to do an emotion then. Or like this. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Somebody should amend their motion.
Well, we are now still in discussion, so that was my question. Pete, are you ready to amend that motion, or would you like us to vote on it and start over?
I think I'm open to amending it if we
Okay.
can find an amendment that satisfies the group. And I'm not sure what Dan maybe has kind of voiced mostly what I think is what I'd like to hear. So if you have an amendment, Dan, I wouldn't mind hearing it.
Well, what about if we, you talked about, native bushes like high bush cranberry and so on. So what about if we said we want some of those in there, but we want either a deciduous tree or a coniferous tree, one for every 30 square feet?
That would be good.
So you're
That's
supposed to
about the
say.
ratio.
Oh, yes.
That's the ratio I was thinking. So I was thinking 5 feet spacing, which would be
Same
25 square feet, right?
So one deciduous or conifer every 25 square feet. So
Well, 30's fine, I'm fine with that.
Oh.
Dan
So are
said
you
30.
amending your
I'm amending my
I
motion.
almost said emotion.
That's right.
To include that.
To
language?
include one deciduous or conifer every 30 square feet, and to include,
The permits. Go
no,
ahead.
some serviceberry, flowering dogwood, and chokecherry every 20 feet.
And wait, do you have more just for that?
I do, and I don't think the requirement for ground cover is important at all. The reason is that, quackgrass or whatever it is there is going to grow anyway, and it's going to look more natural to not have something cultivated.
And then they don't have to mow as much because it'll look nice.
Try to make it easy for you.
So are you going to change it to meet?
Now,
that?
what Dan was saying was no ground cover. These are the shrub.
Right.
So that you're saying shrubs are okay, just not the next layer down. So,
Okay, and in that, and Cody, you might be going to say this anyway, so go ahead and say what you're going to say.
I was just going to ask a question. I was going to propose a wording because Heidi taking minutes is going to need a clear dictation of this. She's got it, yeah. So, real quick clarification for me, the dogwood and chokecherries every 20 feet, is that what Dan was referring to when you said no ground cover, or are you saying in addition to?
no, Dan, if I got Dan right, he was saying stop there, don't go to the ground
Okay.
cover. Those are not ground cover, those
So,
are shrubs.
Pete, I'm going to suggest a wording for you. If you like it, please feel free to amend your motion. If not, we can try it again.
And don't forget the permit part.
Yes, first one that we should do with is a motion to approve SPR and CLU with the appropriate numbers, subject to the applicant provides all outside agency approvals, The applicant maintains and installs a vegetative buffer in the geographic area shown on page C 2.0 of the provided site plan, including a mixture of coniferous and evergreen trees that are planted at a density of 1 per 30 square feet, and deer resistant, or not deer resistant, deer
Resistant is a good word.
Yeah,
Okay, deer-resistant dogwood and chokecherry plants at a density of 1 every 20 feet along the 15-foot depth buffer as shown on page C 2.0.
The only thing you got wrong, you said coniferous and evergreen, which are the same. You want to have deciduous and conifers, or
Thank you.
deciduous and evergreen.
Assuming I just said that all over again with that correction.
And I don't think we should limit the shrubs to 2 species. Yes.
That sounds better.
So
Yeah,
native
native
deer-resistant shrubbery is how you want
Yeah.
that phrased.
I agreed.
Okay, so you now have, just procedural-wise, you now have a motion amendment on the table from Commissioner Springsteen with the
Yes.
previous verbiage.
And do we have, will you amend your support?
I will support the amendment.
Okay, support the amendment, okay. So, please tell me there's no more discussion. No, is there any more discussion?
Heidi, are you good? Okay.
All right, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay, we have no public hearings, so that's number 9. Number 10 is pending business, we have none. So we can move on to number 11, new business, which is SPR 062605, site plan amendment review for Clough's well drilling. The applicant is requesting a site plan amendment to construct 2 new garage buildings. The parcel is zoned general business. So, basically, this one we just start talking about. Would you like to go first?
Certainly. So just a point of note, this is a site plan review only, not a conditional land use with it. So please note the use of the land is not in question, just strictly the arrangement of structures and such on the site plan. Clough's Well Drilling is a well drilling service we have here in the township. They are on M72, kind of in the heart, actually not kind of, directly in the heart of our industrial district there, near the valley on 72 if you're familiar. Staff prepared a few attachments for you, including the application and packet, which has the application, a cover letter, and the site plan that's provided for you in your commissioner packet. I also included sheet C 3.0 for their 2017 previous site plan approval. It will come up later when discussing the basis of design for stormwater. I included excerpts from our master plan, specifically pages 80, 81, and 83 that discuss the industrial zone. We call it general business. The natural features inventory map, I included that, as well as the review from the township engineer and a memorandum from the planning department. The site in question looks like this when you drive by, if you peek at the monitors behind you. They run a well drilling service out of their general commercial establishment, and the applicant and engineer were kind enough to put renderings of what the future expansions would look like. The current proposal has 2 garages being built, and when I get to the site plan, I'll be a little more thorough, but I believe one is along the east property line and one is towards the rear of the property. They are all permitted accessory uses as far as this use type goes. Frankly, it's a natural expansion of the existing building. I didn't see a whole lot of red flags when reviewing this, but I'd be happy to answer any questions as they come up, and the applicant is present if you have any questions for them or their engineer.
Yes.
Sorry, I realized one more thing I needed to point out. Staff didn't have much to say. The only comment that we received was from Fleece and Vanderbrink, our township engineer, who recommended to the township board to, from a stormwater perspective, approve the first building, but reserve the right to approve the second building until a new basis of design has been completed for storm runoff, and I'll let you discuss that with the engineers, because they're the ones with that kind of knowledge, so.
And we do have a table full of them. So anybody want to start this off? Well, we don't, do we need to, I mean, we don't typically, because it's just a site plan review. Would you like a presentation by the engineer? You came here for something.
Sure.
My name is Sarah Ross. I'm the civil engineer for Cloughs and do other work locally and it's statewide, Midwest. Anyway, I had a chance to work with Cloughs when they did their expansion in 2017, and then this one, kind of the natural progression. We've been talking about it for a few years, and finally, he's ready to start construction, later on this summer, early fall. And this project, like you said, we kind of designed it in 2017 knowing this was coming. So the site, if you look at the site layout, can you bring the site plan back up, Cody? I mean, you could look at my beautiful whiteboard down there, but might be easier to see on the plan. So the area where the pole barn is on the east there, that is already gravel area. When the original stormwater was designed, the detention basins, they were designed for this whole site to actually be paved. So right now it's just gravel. Their intention is to be gravel, but impervious area on top of the gravel doesn't change the stormwater design in that area.
Right.
What I can tell you is I happen to have a site meeting out there right after we got that big rainstorm where there were 3 or 4 inches of rain. I don't know if you guys remember, our golf course flooded a little bit in Beulah, but there was no water anywhere on this site the next day. It's in a gravel pit area. It's just the infiltration rates here are 4 to 9 inches an hour. So there's just no water that gets held even in the parking lot area. It's just a super dry area and a dry site. So, I'm very cognizant of stormwater, try to make sure that there's never an issue, but this is one of those sites where as long as we control the direction it's going, there's just not an issue with any flooding or drainage on the site or to a neighboring property. The neighboring property is about 15 to 20 feet higher to the east. To this, it goes down the hill. So again, that building's natural. If you go down to the south building a little bit, can you just scroll down a tiny bit? Cody, there you go. Nope, you're good. The south building, it's kind of half on and half off where the parking lot is. There's a little well to the side there. We're trying to, stay cognizant of that and not block it because they use that to get water for their trucks. The flow path can kind of continue the way it is. It would just go a little bit further south. Right now, that back area, I have a note there, that's piles of gravel. There's a couple paths back there where they have some outdoor storage. They're going to level that off a little bit, just south of that building. And then that pond that is over there on the west side was oversized originally in the original plan. If you look at the stormwater management plan, which we can go through if you want, but that pond was bigger than it needed to be. I want to say by almost 30%. We'd have to pull that sheet back up. So I don't see any issue with stormwater with either one of these buildings. We'd love to get them approved just so when he's ready to do the next one in the next couple of years when this one is done, he could do it. Not that we couldn't come back, but I did take into consideration that when we did these plans, the stormwater and the grading for both of those buildings. So, again, long-standing business. He does a great job. His yard is always very neat and orderly. I don't know if you've ever driven by there, and plus he has a great buffer out front. Again, I did those renderings. You could see the buildings, in color on the site. Just so you can see the impact will be pretty minimal visually. Plus, it's an industrial area. This is probably one of the best buffered sites in that area. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Mr. Klinsky is here, the owner. He's also here to answer any questions if you need him.
So if any of you want to ask her questions, I will allow you to do that. Do you want to?
The only question I had was about the back retention basin, and she's already answered that question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, commissioners, would you like to deliberate?
I have no problem with it.
Neither do I.
I figured you guys would all know if the retention basins are okay or not. Dan?
Make a motion to approve the site plan as presented.
I second it.
So Wagner, Paulson, discussion? I would just like to say, I drove by it, and you were right, there's very minimal, there are trees everywhere, so I can't see anything. So if you thought we were going to get into that. Yeah, I remember that too, yeah. Anything, any discussion? All right, though, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. So is there any public comment from anybody left in the audience? All right, then seeing none, we'll go to reports. So Dan, Township Board reports.
So our meeting, our last Township Board meeting was remarkably short. It wasn't much on the agenda. Probably the only noteworthy thing was we approved the permit for the fireworks, the annual fireworks show that individuals do. It's planned for Saturday, July 4th, the backup day of Sunday, July 5th. So it's all been done, above board permits, fire department oversight, everything, all boxes checked. So that's about it, really, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Max, ZBA report?
Really nothing to report. We haven't had a ZBA case in, I don't know, 6 months probably. Kind of feel like I'm out of a job a little bit there. But
Okay, good. So, planner.
Yeah, just to keep you abreast of the NFI, we're expecting that to be presented by GEI in July, middle of July to the Township Board, with the hopes that that goes well and gets adopted. In conjunction with that, Commissioner Springsteen, I need to get with you regarding the Tree Preservation Ad Hoc Committee that needs to get picked up again now that that NFI is closer to completion. That will help take some of this discussion that we had tonight regarding buffering into a more intensive committee that can iron those things out before we get into a meeting like this. Also, staff is continually working on education updates. We've gone through many different classes this month, including things on data centers and leadership and quite the gambit. So staff has been busy with that as we move forward to summer here.
So does everybody here get Michigan Planner magazine?
We do, and actually
Yes.
all of your commissioners do as well, if you'd like it.
Yep, said we wanted to talk about data centers, so there are articles on data centers. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have anything you would like to have as your report?
I don't have a report, I have a question.
Okay.
I noticed something in the ticker about the road commission taking up the peanut. Do you know anything about that?
I do know that Ron Lemko, our Township Supervisor, has been applying consistent pressure on the road commission to proceed with that. I saw the same article you did. I was very happy to see that. I did see Ron was at a road commission meeting. I've not talked to him about that. I was looking for something else, and I saw that he was there in public comment just to remind them about that. So, yeah, it would be great if that could be realized, so.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when they talked about options other than peanuts, other, traffic light or traffic slowing things, and I just really hope that we get that particular version of it.
Okay, thanks. Dan, do you have any
Oh, man.
personal things you'd like to say? Non-township board things?
No, why? Do you know something I don't?
How about you, Max?
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm good.
All right. Then, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Springsteen? Burchave?